backup or whatever, he has to take time to make that movement. Another thing too on this, yes, in law enforcement you will send your dog out like this, but what they don't teach in sporting world is that you are a team. If you send your dog out, you do not stand at the back and wait for your dog to do the thing and you call it back on the recall. No, you go and you try to make contact with the subject so you can apprehend it. So as soon as that dog goes out, you should be moving. Now that's a pretty cool little still frame. With that said, thinking about that, if your dog misses the target and your dog re-engages, does it go for whatever just because whatever's there when it re-engages, or does it try to go for the weapon side once again, that strong arm? Your dog should always go for the weapon side no matter what. If it can't get the weapon side, like this guy moved and the dog's going to have to fall down, and the dog's more than likely either going to bite the legs or come back because it's closer to the arm that's folded in and the weapon's back, it's probably going to bite the left arm. If it does something like that to take the bite, transfer that bite as soon as that weapon starts coming back around, as you will see. See that weapon coming back? He should have re-engaged that. He shouldn't have just, like I said, he was going to do that weak side, especially on the inside, because as you saw, that subject was able to fold him and hold him close and be able to beat him like he did. This right here is a controversial topic. A lot of people do this kind of thing thinking that it teaches their dog to have control, to not want to react or respond to every little thing. In the show world, in sports world, and in the normal populace in society, you want the dog to be civil like this. You want it to not engage or want to engage everything. But in the police world, you want it to be real. Anything that is close to the dog that is threatening, like this guy is with the stick, you want the dog to at least pick up on and warn you about, alert you to, right? You don't want a guy with a stick, because there's no real reason in the real world for a guy logically to be near you and your dog rattling a stick, shaking a stick, because the intent is automatically known that the dog is going to be threatened by it. That's the only reason the guy would do it. But for show and for what this is supposed to teach, it kind of makes sense, but there's another way to do it. You don't teach the dog not to recognize the threat in order to achieve it. What you do is you have the subject not in a bite suit that represents work, and you don't have the guy that close representing the threat. What you do, if you want the dog to be able to be in an environment where people work, say, cutting grass or whatever, you take them in that type of environment with tools like this thing is supposed to represent at the moment are used, and people just do whatever. They walk around with machetes, they cut bushes or fruit off of trees, if you live in foreign countries that do that kind of thing. Or you walk around with people using chainsaws to cut trees. You walk around with people using lawnmowers, loud noises and stuff. You don't dilute the dog to threats by trying to teach it something else, and that's what this is doing. It's taking the reality of the threat away from the dog. It's telling the dog, hey, to be civil, and yes, that's a good thing you need to do, but they're doing it wrong. Because any given moment, that guy could come back and be a threat to that dog. Again, all of that. Now, with all that said, should dogs that are police dogs be able to do sports? No. because everything that you just saw in the sports world, a real dog should not allow ever. If you take a working dog, like a police dog or a military dog, and you start doing sports to it, you dilute it. You take it from being a real dog, being technical, effective, and efficient by understanding threats and knowing how to engage threats, why they engage threats, when they engage threats, all this stuff, and telling it, hey, you bite and hold, you hang on to the guy, and you get beat to death, as you saw. You never want to move down in your training level, you want to move up. And you can't really move up from the sports, because in the sports world, if the dog attacks the guy on the strong arm and the guy is unprotected on that strong arm, and he's just waving a clutter stick, you are going to be in serious legal trouble because your dog bit someone. Well, guess what? You're training the dog to bite. If you can't accept the fact that you got bite for fucking up by waving a threat at the dog, then you shouldn't be doing the job to begin with. And that's why I don't tot up my dogs, because in a situation like you saw, my dog will engage that guy at the weapon no matter what, every time. And that's what you want. You want the dog to have that realization. Now, in closing with this, I said that I would go back to address the statement or the idea of the recall. What sports has going for it is that it has a nice recall. Sports do have some of the best recalls because they can do it from a distance. They can get the dog off the bite. Unlike most police canines where you have to lift the dog or choke the dog off, or, bite ball the dog off, whatever it may be, to get the dog off. They don't come off easy. That is one thing that the sports do have. They have a nice recall. They have a nice off. But that is done because of the reward of food. If you give the dog the reward for food, every time that you call it off, it's going to be conditioned to come back every time. And another thing with it is sports dogs are not fed a regular meal. They are fed small portions, and during training they make up the rest of the meal by treats. You don't want that in the police world, because if you don't feed your dog and you get caught out for 36 hours, your dogs are going to be hungry as hell by the time it gets its next meal. It's going to be like, why the hell did I not do this? In the police world, you want to feed your dog every meal because you never know when it's going to eat again. That's why police should not use food as a reward. They should use their verbal presence. Be like, good boy, I love you, boy, stuff like that, to tell the dog that, hey, this is your reward, you did good. They should use touch, petting the dog. Toys, yes, but not around the threat presence. If you use a toy as a reward, do it away from the threat. Do it away from the situation. Wait till you back in the patrol car to give the dog a reward. That way he doesn't associate the reward with the threat, because if you do anything with nose work, you can see why that is bad. And apprehension, that can be bad as well. And I will try to address that later on. Any questions or comments or concerns, drop them below.